we didn't have to put down like 20%. I mean, you can if you want, but I think we put down, what, 3%?
3%, yeah.
So, it's not, a lot of people, I think, they think they have to have like this 800 credit score. No, you just have to be responsible. I mean, he drove a very old 300,000 miles Camry when we met and kept it so that we could buy a house.
So we're going to see Alex and Eric, and they're actually past clients of mine. I sold them this house, about 5 years ago. And I think I've only been back to see them 1 or 2 times, and it's been a few years, so I'm really excited to see what they've done with the place.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
It's so good to see you. Welcome in, thank you. They're beautiful.
Hi, I'm Kara. I'm your host for Under 30 Homebuyers, and today I'm here with Alex and Eric. Hi, guys. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves?
I'm Alex. I actually know Kara from school.
Yeah.
We went to high school together. And this is Eric, my fiance. We've been together 6 years. We have 3 kids, 10, almost 10, 6 and 3, so we're busy. They're in sports. I do insurance. He's an accountant. So we're pretty much just your normal working 30-year-old family.
And how long have you guys been in this home? When did we purchase this one?
July 2020.
July, yeah.
Was it July?
And then, but we didn't move in right away.
Okay.
So we moved in November because the original owners of the house, they'd been here since they built it. They were building another house in Ball Ground. But it wasn't going to be ready in time by the time we bought the house, and we had a lease at an apartment. So it was perfect. It worked out. Our lease ended right about when their house was ready. So we just rented it back to them until November, and then we moved in.
That's right. I remember that.
Yeah. And it gave us a chance to do like renovations.
Brand new
before
floors.
we moved in, put the flooring in, and stuff like that.
And what did you guys have in here before?
Hardwood and carpet.
Yep. Original hardwood, they were pretty scratched up, and carpet, and so then we went in with all the LVP, the click.
Well, it looks really good. You guys did a great job.
Yeah.
Now, did you do that yourselves, or did you have it?
You
did. You did. Oh my gosh, I'm so impressed.
No, I did not.
No,
Eric and his brother and his dad did.
Me and my brother and my dad and one of our friends.
No, I just pointed fingers and told them what to do.
Well, it looks great, you guys.
Thank you.
I mean, it looks like a professional job to me.
Thank you.
Don't
look too hard. It's okay.
That's okay. That's why we have paint and rugs and stuff.
Right.
Trim. Okay, and you said we purchased back in 2020, so that was about 5 years ago. How old were you guys?
I was 26.
And I was 25.
So mid-20s.
Mid-20s. Oh my goodness. And how were you able to purchase at mid-20? How did you prepare for that?
Well, Eric was a little bit more prepared than me because he didn't have any children prior. So he lived at home. He could save money working. I think he paid a couple $100s to his parents, when he lived there for things. But most of his money, he could save it. Got a credit card, paid his payments every month to make sure he had good credit. And I mean, honestly, it was an easy process because he had just been financially responsible and saving his money. So the longer you can live at home,
that's great.
the better.
And I guess that means no credit debt or anything like
No,
that.
I mean, I was pretty fortunate that my dad's an accountant, so he pretty much taught me about financials as I was younger. And I got a credit card when I was in my teens when I got my first job and paid it off every month. I've never rolled any credit over to the following month. And then it was also kind of like a perfect storm with COVID. I mean, prices on houses were very low comparative to 2025. So
we just took the chance while we could.
Yeah.
And it was hard. I mean, it was competitive. There was a lot of people trying to buy houses then, but we got really lucky and you were really helpful. So.
Thank you.
I didn't want to spend any more money renting, and I thought it was
that was one thing for sure. We knew we didn't want to just flush money down the toilet renting, and we were in an apartment with multiple kids, and so we just wanted to get out of that.
Now, how did your rent at your apartment compare to your mortgage when you got in here? Was it?
I think it was more.
The same, or
so the rent I think at the time when we lived in Marietta was like $1,350 a month, and the mortgage payment before property taxes was like $1,400. So it's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
I mean, it's steadily gone up every year simply because property taxes are increasing. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't really much of a financial difference.
Way more space. Not to be annoyed by our neighbors up and down, like all of the things that come with living in an apartment. So it was definitely worth
Oh,
Yeah. And we're in a much better school zone too for our kids.
And that was really important to us, was trying to find a house in like the school zone that we wanted to be in. So we also took the time to do that. And luckily he's been here since he was.
I've been living in Canton since 2004.
Yeah, so he's been here for a really long time. I've been here for a long
20
time. So we kind of knew the area, we knew the schools, and we knew that was something we wanted to focus on, but so did a lot of other people. So that's why it made it competitive here.
Right. So you'll have to refresh my memory. What did house hunting look like in COVID times?
Oh,
It was a mess. You had to be quick.
very quick.
There were instances where you showed us or made us aware of a house, and then that same day it was someone already had made an offer.
Yeah.
So you had to be fast.
Yeah, we looked at a good few. I want to say we looked at 5 or 6 before we, had this one. And it was always the same thing. Like you would call and be like, all right, we got to go look at it, because if not, it's going to have 10 offers by the end of the day. And that was very true. So we looked at this one like as quickly as we could. But that's also what's really helpful with having things like good credit, and, you have more to bring to the table, down payment, this, that, how much you could. It's helpful because when it's competitive like that, you have to have something to set you apart. So it's definitely good to remember that.
And thankfully, like I think when we have a conventional loan, and I put down 3%, so I didn't have to put a huge down payment down because I had really good credit. And I think one of the things that helped us stand out for this home specifically was that we were willing to let them rent it back.
Right.
I don't know if that was the reason for the offer.
Buying it from a family. Like they knew it was going to be our first home. They raised their girls here. It was actually the principal of Hickory Flat that we bought the house from. So community stays in the community. Yeah. So that was nice that, I think you told us to write them a letter.
Yeah.
And we did. And it helped. Very definitely. They were like, we loved your letter. So.
Right. Yeah. Right. So, and we were multiple offer situations.
Yes.
So that's how the letter and the good credit and the rent back was able to help.
Yes.
Wow. And when you guys applied for your loan, how did that process go? Was there anything that was like hiccupy or questionable, or was it? Tell me about that process.
It was pretty smooth. I mean, I think the only like speed bump I had was I had multiple high yield savings, so just getting all of that information.
Yeah,
to
it's a lot
the mortgage
paperwork
company
and that kind of thing, but our lender was great.
Yeah.
She walked us through every step, any questions. I mean, she would call us at night and whenever, anything. So she was being 26. I'd never bought a house. I didn't know anything. Like he knew way more about finances and stuff than I did. I didn't know anything. So having somebody like to not only just be there for your lender, but she was very like involved was nice.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, being a first-time home buyer, you don't really know the steps.
No,
you kind of
not
just
at all.
going
You're
into the
clueless.
blind.
You just pick out houses you like and hope for the best.
So aside from the savings and having the lender walk you through, how were you able to prepare for purchasing from what you just said, learning like the steps and what to do and, that kind of stuff? What helped you in that process?
I mean, kind of like just being prepared, and you're like, know you have money saved. I mean, that was our biggest help. I mean, kind of know your budget.
Yeah.
So that maybe you do need to increase your budget a little bit to be able to get that better house, but expect that you may pay a little bit more. But I feel like just being financially prepared is what really helped me the most, knowing that, maybe it may not work now, but in 6 months, much different houses could be out there and get a better deal.
And really knowing what you want. Like what is important to you in a home, because you might think it's this, this, and this, and then you start looking and you're like, oh, I don't really care about this, but I notice I don't like this in homes. Right. So like going into it, really having sat down and like knowing like what's important, schools, like, all those kinds of things, I think helps you also be prepared, because then when you go in and you are working with like a realtor, you can say, hey, this is what is important to me. Can we only like look at homes that have this, or, so that helps to be more educated, I think, also about like what you want.
I think the preparedness and the attentiveness of your realtor makes a huge difference too. Yeah. Because if you're quick, we can be quick.
Yeah. So. And you know how to find the houses better than us.
Right.
So.
Thank God for MLS.
That's right.
So in real estate, there's typically a rule of thumb. You pick 5 things that you want and then expect to get 3. So did you guys have those 5 things? Did you get those 3? Did you have to make compromises?
I think some of the things we definitely wanted was enough room for 3 children to have their own room. us to have a decent room of our own, some space of our own.
Which we only had 2 children when we moved in here, but we knew we wanted a third. So we thought ahead and made sure, like, well, in a couple of years when we have another kid, we don't want to have to buy another house. So,
and then I remember we wanted a backyard somewhere they could run around. And thankfully, we live at the bottom of a cul-de-sac. So not only do they have a little bit of yard, they have a little bit of street they can run in safely and play in. And then, like we touched on earlier, the school zone was very important to us. But I don't think we made it to 5. I think we got 100%.
Well, we wanted to be in like a neighborhood. I knew that. Like, I wanted to be around other children and things like that. I didn't want them to be bored, you know. But as far as the house, yeah, as long as it had enough space, and we knew we wanted 2 floors. We didn't want a ranch. So we looked at some split levels, and then we looked at this one. This one had a basement, which wasn't super important to us, but it has become helpful to have. So that was nice.
Why has the basement become helpful?
We have a tenant that we rent out to down there. It's basically a full apartment, and so it helps him. He doesn't have an outrageous rent he has to pay. He's just a single dad that lives down there, and it helps us. You know, it goes. We put that money straight towards our mortgage, so it's kind of a win-win for everybody. His bedroom is one of the rooms that we redid here, so we got a new, very nice, very nice. So we did not originally want to be in a neighborhood that had an HOA. We'd never been in one, but you hear like the horror stories about how bad they are.
Right.
So at first I think we did look at a few houses that didn't have it. And this was one that did. And we were like, okay, we really liked the house. So we gave it a chance, and it's been no issue.
Not
it's
issue.
Been fine. I mean, obviously there's your typical, you want to cut a tree down in your front yard. You got to make sure it's approved.
Of course.
You should do that anyway. Be safe. But no, I mean, they just make sure, and our HOA is actually great here. They do like parties at the pool, like for different times of the year.
Great.
And we had like, during the summer, every week we have a food truck so they're actually really great. They're really involved. And it just makes, we don't have 100 cars parking on the street. It's aesthetically pleasing in here, which doesn't seem important, but, if you invite your friends over, you don't want, your neighbor to have like purple house or, like.
What's interesting too about our neighborhood, we live in the Falls at Mill Creek, but there's also the Manor at Mill Creek.
Yep.
So it's like split into 2. So they also have a pool that you could use, a tennis court and playgrounds as well. And it's like a half a mile down the street. So this pool's ever full, we can go to the other one.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yes. And,
That's nice too.
and just the fact that, your HOA covers amenities. So with 3 kids, having a pool and a playground's nice.
We have a couple playgrounds in the neighborhood, and he takes them to them all the time.
We live at the pool in the summer.
Yeah. We really do.
Are you a good swimmer, bud? Oh,
He is. All of them are little fish. So that was something, I feel like that was something that we wanted. If we were going to be in a neighborhood, we wanted to make sure I had like a pool.
yeah.
Hopefully that we didn't have to like pay, and we don't.
Right.
We pay our HOA, but we live in the neighborhood, and it's been great for our friends too that don't have pools, and we invite them. And so that was another thing I would say we looked for. If we were going to be in a neighborhood, we wanted to have something entertainment wise.
Yeah.
So, and we got that. So
Yay.
we got most of what we wanted, but this house.
That's wonderful. And what is your favorite part of owning a home?
Beyond not having to spend money renting anymore, I think one of my favorite pieces of owning a home is having something to own and call your own. It gives you a lot of pride in knowing that this is something that's gonna, my kids are gonna grow up in, that maybe I could eventually give to them one day. And also having like equity in something, it means a lot. And then, I don't know, is there anything that you really enjoy?
Obviously, like you said, pride of home ownership. It's at 30, almost 2, a lot of people I know, a lot of my friends don't own homes because they can't get one, or they're undereducated. They don't realize that they can afford a home more than they can probably afford their rent. Seriously. So I think that's also nice, is buying a home just teaches you like real world things that you might have never known. Like I said, I didn't know anything about like credit, or I just was never educated on that. So like buying a house and going through that process taught me how important your credit is, your job, like all of those things. I feel like that's also something that's kind of nice. And then when other people are trying to buy a house, you can remind them like, hey, make sure you're doing this, this, and this. You kind of feel like it gives you a perspective on the experience, then you can help share that with other people. And I like to be able to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and in the preparedness of saving for a home, I mean, one of the biggest things that I don't know I would take pride in owning a home in so much is if I didn't have money saved. Because if we came into this house with $0 in our bank account, I don't think we would have been able to do as much as we have, like with replacing the floors, and we've gotten new windows and things like that. So being house broke kind of would be terrible. You know, I don't want to not be able to spend money on any renovations you might need to do, or in case there's an emergency. Whenever you buy a house, you know,
you want to be outside of your means. So
right.
definitely be prepared before you go into it. Don't just, oh, I can buy a house. I'm pre-approved. Okay, let's do it. Like, you know,
right.
Make sure you're really setting yourself up for success first. So that when you do move in, if you want to buy a new couch, you can buy a new couch, or, you know, that kind of thing. So it's a big step. You want to make sure you're fully prepared.
So I know you mentioned earlier that you had time to put new floors in when they were renting back from you. What other renovations have you guys been able to do?
We were able to update our youngest's bedroom. So we prepared that before he was born. Previously, it was all purple and pink, set up for a little girl's room. But now it's all green and white, set up as like a little jungle theme.
And we did like full renovation in there. So we put wainscoting up on the wall, like all the way around. We painted it a whole different color. So like we changed a lot in there. That was a good experience learning how to do that with his brother, and his dad did that with him too. We haven't hired anybody. We've done it all by ourselves.
Family matters in these instances.
We've painted obviously a lot, which makes a huge difference. You don't realize. We've gotten a new furnace for our house, which is not something you necessarily want to do. Right. We've also a new air conditioning unit. Yep. So like those are kinds of things that when you say you don't want to be house broke, like we didn't know we were going to need that when we moved in 5 years ago, but we were at a point when it happened that we were able to buy a new air conditioning unit, you know, which is important. Yes. We've gotten all new windows on the front of the house, which has been helpful for, you know, our utility bill, like things like that. Not just for aesthetics, but, you know, we did things in mind to like make, you know, it more efficient for us as well.
Yep. We've also updated the bathroom.
Yeah, we updated this bathroom down here. And it's like cosmetic stuff, you know, that's easy to do. But makes a big difference.
And then we've renovated our basement. So it had like a little
kitchenette.
A little kitchenette, yeah. So it was just a sink and a fridge, place to put a fridge. But we knocked down a whole wall and we put an entire full kitchen down there.
That we did hire a contractor to do that because we're not that skilled. But everything else we've done ourselves. So.
Oh my gosh, that's so impressive. Yeah. Wow. And like you said earlier, lots of paint, but it goes so far.
Like new appliances, you wouldn't think. We got new appliances in our kitchen, made the whole kitchen just look like brand new.
Oh yeah.
That was all we did.
So is there anything that was kind of unexpected as a homeowner, like going into homeownership?
You can start.
I would say just like a lot of maintenance. And you hear people say that like, well, I rent because then my landlord just has to deal with it. And that is part of the process of understanding when you buy a home, it's your responsibility. So we didn't expect to have to get a new air conditioning unit, or our fence is falling down. We didn't expect 5 years ago. It was great. We didn't expect that we were going to have to put up a new fence, but we have kids and it's important to us. So there's definitely unexpected things that come along.
Right.
Yeah, and then I think people don't realize too that, you know, your mortgage payment isn't just made up of what you owe the bank, but it's also what you owe for taxes every year. So I mean that increases too. So you don't just have one stagnant payment similar to like renting a house, renting. You don't. It does change if it's taxes or homeowner insurance.
Right. And that's really hard to expect what it's going to change by, especially like in a Cherokee County, like county like here, it's growing, it's changing so much that you really never know. So that's going to always be unexpected. But if you're prepared and you're educated, then it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
Another unexpected thing that wasn't necessarily about the house, but was the process of buying a house. When you've never bought a house, you think it's going to be, like you said, it's daunting. You think it's going to be this hard, confusing, you know, stressful. And it's not, it's stressful. It's a big purchase. It's a big life decision. But if you have somebody like you, who's a great realtor and knows the area, and, you know, I mean, every question we had, it didn't matter what time of the day it was, that makes it so much more easy. And you feel more comfortable and trustworthy that, okay, well, I'm going to spend $300,000, but this person, you know, I trust them with that. Right. So I would say it was way easier than I expected it to be. Like, as far as like you mean getting a lender, a loan, like a lot of people think that's a very, you have to have this credit and this much money and that kind of, there's so many options for people, especially first time home buyers. So, having somebody like you who knew that was very helpful.
And that's another benefit of a good realtor is they have a lot of those resources ready for you.
Yeah, connections and
so that she was able to put us in contact with what we needed to do.
Yeah.
And then thankfully, whenever we got our mortgage, they ended up selling it to the bank that I already bank with, which made it significantly easier to pay.
Yeah, so it just it was very easy. And I think a lot of people stress thinking it's going to be this hard thing. So they're like, oh, I'll just rent then. I just have to sign a lease and that's it. Like,
So earlier you had mentioned there's, you have a lot of friends that don't know what the process is like and they don't think they could buy. Why do you think that they have that mindset?
I think a lot of people, young people especially, they think they have to have like this huge chunk of money to be able to like put down or whatever. It's just like buying a car. Like there's a million options where that's not the case. I mean, we didn't have to put down like 20%. I mean, you can if you want, but I think we put down 3%?
3%, yeah.
So, it's not, a lot of people, I think they have to have like this 800 credit score. No, you just have to be responsible. You have to, and you do have to make sure you've had a job for a consistent time and things like that. So I think maybe people also don't realize that. And so then when they do try to get a loan or something, well, you've had a new job every year, like those are also things I think that people don't realize that hinder them. But then also like a lot of our friends haven't had consistent like careers and things like that. So they don't really like think that they can buy a house. But I'm like, there's options. You just have to know the right person to talk to about it. There's options.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you could give those friends advice, where would be the point to start?
The first thing I would tell them to do is get a realtor. Talk to a realtor. Seriously, talk to a realtor. Because if you have no clue, like if you would be approved, if you're in a place to buy a house, that's the best person to ask. Because they're going to be able to tell you straight up, you're wasting your time right now. You need to improve this or fix this before you're able to, or they'll be able to tell you, yeah, all right, let's go.
Right. They can help you establish that timeline.
Yeah.
Of what's realistic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd suggest budget. I feel like that's a huge key too, is that pretend you've bought a home, live like you're living in a home, and spend like you've bought a home.
Advice.
Yes.
So then if, try this out for 6 months, a year, and if it doesn't work and you're finding yourself financially unable to, then you can already tell, like, maybe I am not ready, but then it's something that you can build toward.
Right.
Yeah.
So since you're a numbers guy, you're an accountant, break that down a little bit more. Like, what would you specifically do? What does that look like?
I would definitely have like an emergency savings. So like, when we bought the house, it was $309,000. We put down 3%. So we only had to put down $9,000. And then I had a little over like $30,000 in savings to be able to move into the house. And then if anything needed updating, or if anything needed fixing, or if we wanted new furniture, appliances, we could have done that. But I don't think we did. I mean, we came in pretty luckily. Yeah,
and as young people, you also have to remember that like it's a huge responsibility buying a house. So you do have to give up going out and spending $100, $200 with your friends every weekend. You do have to give up going out to eat every night. But I have a kitchen now and a home I own, so I can cook here every day. There are other sacrifices that as young people you have to make if you want to, I guess, elevate yourself.
And I feel like too, like we didn't have to make many more sacrifices because already having children, most of those kind of go hand in hand. Right. The sacrifices I've made for children kind of just translate into homeownership. So it's like I've already put those in place. So it's not really like much change. I just became a homeowner.
Yeah, and like I said, just make sure you're living within your means. If you want to buy a house, don't make $50,000 a year and buy an $80,000 car. Those kinds of things. He drove a very old 300,000 miles Camry when we met and kept it so that we could buy a house, so things like that.
So if you could do it all again, would you do it the same? Would you do anything differently?
I think I would do it the same. I think we've had a very good experience. Yeah. Just with where our house is, the house itself, you.
Yeah, I feel like I'd do it the same. If we could have been lucky enough to get outside of an HOA,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I think that
If
would have been the
not,
only thing.
I mean, we've had a good time with this HOA. I mean, they've not caused any problems, but we've also not caused any problems.
Right.
So
yeah.
it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no, I would do it all the same.
Good. Thank you so much for sharing your story and being able to help inspire that new generation of under 30
Of
home
course.
buyers. It really means the world to us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tell them to buy a house. You won't regret it.